You end your book with a special chapter about the role of graphic arts in the selling of music. And in the case of the Irish scene, there's an artist that seems to have crossed many decades of success, and that's Steve Averill. We just mentioned him a little earlier on. Quite the Renaissance man, really, who namely worked with U2 and the Virgin Prunes, but not just. And I think we all know the particular relationship that the two bands enjoyed at the beginning of their career. But Steve Averill is lesser known, but a key figure, and why?
Steve Averill is so important to the development and the success of the Irish music industry that if you took him out, if he was absent from that history, if he didn't exist and didn't participate the way he did, we would have a much, much lesser industry. He was a guy who was obsessed with music and visuals. And he followed that obsession for years. Now, it must have given him a lot of personal satisfaction, but it was of huge benefit. I think we as a nation, we actually haven't processed how much we owe to Steve Averill in terms of his contribution on a many, many, many different aspects of our cultural life. He's important for being a founder member of the Radiators from Space, of doing their graphic design, of doing such impressive graphic work that when Chiswick Records, founded by two Irish guys in London, when they get the Chiswick received the demo tape from, I believe, from Eamon Carr of Horselips, of the Radiators, they thought, that's okay, but the artwork's incredible. So let's go deeper into it. And then he mentored, we talked in the U2 section about, he had an open door in his house to Adam Clayton when Adam Clayton was thinking, how do I get people to notice our band? So he's sitting down and his wife is giving coffee to this young schoolboy, certainly of schoolboy age, even if he wasn't going to school every day. So he's transferring all of the knowledge that he has from being in the Radiators, but also from being an active member of the music community. He starts a fanzine, like one of the first punk fanzines, if not the first punk fanzine, Raw Power. And Raw Power was an invitation to everyone just to do it themselves. It's got the absolute key message of punk rock and DIY and the type of entrepreneurship that we saw with Ellen O'Byrne when Irish people had no money. And then with Horselips.
Horselips, yeah.
Steve is absolutely putting out that seed and promoting it and publicizing it and making it look good. He famously said, does anyone want to be in an all-girl band? This is a guy. So it's like, is that mansplaining? Is that, patronizing? And women wrote in saying, I'd love to be in an all-girl band. And he said, well, I took out the ad, and there's the other people who responded. So form a band. And, famously, they were called the Boy Scouts. With his ad, brilliant. And a really important moment for that punk scene that was underdeveloped in Ireland was the fact that there was at least one all-female band, which you didn't have in the North or in some other scenes. So he was there mentoring, but not pushing. I think he set up U2's first photo session. He certainly got them to change their name from the Hype. I think he designed their first poster, and then he got involved with every element of their visual representation, which, now, some people don't like U2, but if anyone can fault their visual representation, then I'd like to hear from them, because I think it's flawless and imaginative and interesting. And then he's doing the Virgin Prunes. And, the Prunes, for anyone who was young at the time where the Prunes were making music, there was nothing like that anywhere in Irish culture. Like, there was nothing like that in any visiting band coming to Ireland. They were staggering. And maybe you think, okay, so Steve Averill was a great graphic designer, so of course he wanted to do the U2 stuff because they were famous, but he was putting as much effort and ingenuity into the Virgin Prunes as he was into U2, and they both, again, flawless visual presentation.
Yeah.
And then he, DC9, who were the great should have been of that Irish punk into post-punk scene. He was involved, he was helping them. He had a series. He was one of the early champions of electronica in Ireland, because he started reviewing the electronica bands for Hot Press. And he just has had this legacy. There's like the Mother Records bands, loads and loads of interesting stuff. And that's a legacy. But what isn't a legacy is all the conversations he's having, encouraging bands, mentoring them, helping them without getting any acknowledgement, or even he'd probably be embarrassed to hear me talking about him like this. So central figures, and I think our musicians, to me, are world beaters. Our enterprise of music is incredibly, incredibly low. I think it's huge. It's an embarrassment how little music enterprise. But the music enterprise that has occurred over that 120-year period is staggering. But it's driven by individuals rather than by institutions. And our artwork is absolutely top of the world. I'll challenge any other country, to show me as many great. And Steve Averill is at the forefront of that. But then you've got people like Niall McCormack, you've got people like Boz Mugabe, you've got really, really Brian Crosby that I mentioned, the cover that his mother helped him with for the Cake Sale benefit album. So Lisa Hannigan, the Irish artists who then get involved in their own desire, in their own design, that's incredibly important. So I think our legacy of music industry artwork, to me, it's second to none. I'll put it up against anyone's.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. And I think we have a huge panorama of the Irish music industry. And I think we could have talked for another 6 hours, to be honest, because we just skirted the ideas that are in your book, which, you can all get at equinoxpub.com. And the book is called Sounds Irish, Acts Global. Thank you very much, Michael, and I hope we'll have you on the show again very soon for another topic.
Thanks a million. What a pleasure. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you.